One of the things I like about the river is how it strips people down to who they really are. People leave their accoutrements of city life. They bring a lot of it too.
What we're really promoting there is the opportunity for somebody to get on the water, learn about the river, and come away from it 5 days later with kind of a changed perception of what the Willamette is and what its focal issues are.
Most people would be back to work by Monday and their mind's still out here. It's just a great way to recharge your batteries and just take a look at life from a different aspect.
Where they started the trip on a Monday and where they ended up on a Friday are two completely different places, both geographically and even philosophically, and in terms of how much they end up knowing about the river system. And that's where any river trip has its greatest resonance. It's never the same trip twice.
Growing up, we never really came in and swam at the Willamette.
The river was dirtier and way more polluted and foggy. You know, you couldn't see. Water wasn't near as clear as you see it now. Not as much wildlife.
I used to lead trips from Eugene to Harrisburg. We'd always go through an area that was quite polluted from the industry, and they've been cleaning that up.
I've only swam in the Willamette River once, and I'm a native, like multiple generations. But we always just were kind of taught that it was a little dirty and maybe we wouldn't want to be swimming in it. So there's a ton of stuff to do here, and I haven't done any of it.
There's parts of it that are really clean, and then there's other parts that you probably wouldn't want to go swimming in.
Today, the Willamette faces multiple risks. We have dams that block fish passage, which is absolutely critical. If the fish cannot get over the dams, they will not be able to naturally reproduce above the dams in the smaller tributaries. The second would be the alteration of habitat. You've taken a river that had multiple channels for its entire existence that flooded annually, and we've really relegated that river to one main channel in most cases by cutting off the floodplain, by building up the banks with riprap and other structures. We have Clean Water Act issues. There's too much pollution, and both from historic contaminants and also emerging contaminants. Just downstream of downtown Portland, we have a major Superfund site that contains a host of PCBs. It also contains DDT and oil-based products and heavy metals that are undergoing a cleanup process.
It's so involved with politics, and we seem to be swinging towards, oh, we want to be more industrialized now. We want to make things easier for industry, and it's very understandable the way the economy is, but I hope we don't swing so far that the river deteriorates. We really have to take a good hard look at it.
The Willamette Valley is great for growing all sorts of things. This area floods pretty regularly, and so we have all this river bottom soil that doesn't look like much right now. It's pretty dusty. Turn of the century, there were thousands of acres of hops out here. This was the biggest single trellis system in the world. The river is super important. It's a key aspect to being able to grow here.
Once you feel it and you're a part of it, I think people have a better idea of how we all live downstream and we all need to take care of it.
I don't see a bunch of people in just kayaks and canoes. I see people trying to make a statement to communities that they're actually paddling through, showing everybody around us that, you know, we need to take care of this water, we need to keep it clean, we need to watch the things that are built around it, that are put into it. For us, just having our canoe in the water at any time is a statement to people that we're still here. It's sacred to us. The water has ceremonies built around it itself, And so for us, it's just an extension of us. It's a part of us. So we still paddle the way our ancestors do. We paddle our ancestral highways, you know, and so take care of them, you know. We don't want to be floating by some garbage dump, so.
The cool thing about it is we're right in the backyard of all these big urban centers. On the ferry, we saw these people on their morning commute. There was a line on one side of the river, and the ferry was just going steadily back and forth across the river. And it's a reminder, like, oh yeah, there's a city right next door to us, and everybody's going to work and doing their thing, and there's traffic jams.
It's pretty interesting that this is kind of an industrial corridor from Portland to Salem, and this is pretty natural on the river. It's beautiful.
For a minute, you know, maybe we did drive 10 hours to get away from any urban centers. It's easy to be fooled into thinking you're somewhere really remote. I'm not having any less fun than I had on those remote trips. This is fantastic.
Just to see the fish, the wildlife, the different types of birds that are out there. I would have never thought we had this many eagles and ospreys this close to an industrial environment. I mean, we were seeing kingfishers, everything else today. It was a pretty good day on the river.
It's easy to get a sense of sort of the cycle of life, if you will, because oftentimes you're able to see the various components come together in terms of the interaction of the riparian zone on the river's edge, that in many cases you could find areas where it's very lush and natural and not overgrown with invasive species. And you could see the interaction of the fish with that riparian zone, and then the heron that might be standing at the water's edge ready to snatch up that fish, or the osprey that is gliding overhead and suddenly dives to get a large-scale sucker, for example. Those interactions are really cool to experience, especially as you're paddling up one of those side channels and it's very quiet. You'll get the hit of that bird life. You might have a beaver that pops out of the edge of the brush and slaps its tail. In some cases, we have river otters that'll swim around the riparian zone at the same time.
I think more people just need to experience the river to see what a real resource it is. As a society, we're spending more time indoors. Computer games, Facebook, everything else. We're just so technically orientated that we just need to step back and look at what are some of the other options. This might not be for everybody, but gosh, it sure is a great way to spend some time.
I think we owe it to the river and we owe it to ourselves to do a better job of living with this river. Dial the clock back just a little bit so we can improve conditions that would benefit not only water quality but a great many species that have lived in this river basin for tens of thousands of years in some cases.
We all have that responsibility to take care of not just ourselves, but also the people that are living downstream from us.
One of the cool things about seeing a committed group of citizens take hold of their river and turn it into something really cool says that even on a big river like the Willamette, people can if they're active and volunteer and get out on and clean it up, they can make a real big impact.
The tide can be reversed. The 400,000 fish that used to run up this river every spring, that we can begin to see an increase in native fish, and we can continue to see improvements in water quality. And again, that's going to benefit all of us.